I'll tell you exactly how many months. It is May, June, July, August, September, 52 months. We'll hit a million. Because every halving we add a zero. So this halving we added a zero to 100K. Next halving we add a zero to a million, but we won't hit that until the end of the Bitcoin fall, right before Bitcoin winter. So this fall will be October. We'll have the crash, then we'll have to come back, then we'll have the halving, and then we'll have the ramp into 2029. So 2029 September, we'll hit a million. To put a number.
Bitcoin is on track to reach a $1 million price by September 2029, not just because it sounds impressive, but because the math supports it. According to Yusko, each halving event increases Bitcoin's scarcity and effectively adds a zero to its price, pushing it from thousands to tens of thousands, then from hundreds of thousands to eventually millions. This pattern has repeated before, and he sees no reason why it won't continue. However, Yusko is realistic about what lies ahead. Before this surge, he anticipates significant turbulence, including a major correction later this year. This correction will serve as an emotional reset for the market, paving the way for recovery, another halving, and then a climb toward new all-time highs. For Yusko, it's not about believing in magic, it's about understanding and respecting the natural cycle Bitcoin follows.
Stop. You don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
And people make fun of Laszlo because, he gave away 10,000 Bitcoin for two pizzas. If he would have kept them, he'd have $1.1 billion. Yeah, sure. But that transaction is one of, and it's not the only, but it's one of the key points that allowed us to get where we are. I say this all the time. The miracle of Bitcoin is not that we just went from 74K to 111K. It's not that we went from 10,000 to 60,000 or even 1,000 to 10,000. The miracle is that we went from 0.0003 to $1. That's the miracle. The fact that it actually caught, that the technology actually caught on, and doing a transaction was what we needed. And we're a year in, right? It was May 22nd, 2010. So we're more than a year in, a year away from Hal Finn saying run in Bitcoin. And so it's pretty important. And he did create also the first GPU miner, which pretty big deal. So lots of contributions to our stacks. Stablecoins are the future of payment rails. I talk about this all the time. The first time I bought an NFT sitting on my couch in my pajamas on a Sunday using MetaMask was glorious. Not because the NFT did anything, but just because I didn't have to wait for Monday for the bank to open. I didn't have to go anywhere. I was in control. Instant settlement. Beautiful. So the construct of payment rails being unleashed from Swift, ACH, Fedwire, yes. So stablecoins as a bridge to the ultimate answer, talk about the last trade, we're going to have CeFi. So we have TradFi, we're going to have CeFi, and then ultimately we'll have DeFi. CeFi includes stablecoins. Well, why do I say that? Well, because stablecoin is really just a better fiat. And fiat sucks for many different reasons, but it's way better than central bank digital currency, which could be programmed and they could tell you how and when you could use your money. That would be evil. But stablecoins just backed by fiat, good. And it'll solve the short-term problem for the US of low demand for treasuries. Do I think that has impact for Bitcoin? Yes and no. See, to me, Bitcoin is digital gold. It's the new base layer of money. Gold's been the base layer of money for 5,000 years. Gold will be for the next 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever. And what does that mean? Well, today central banks buy gold. They put it in warehouses, and then they have, Fedwire, ACH, and the Visa, MasterCard networks. I don't actually use physical money anymore. I just use my credit card and I settle up once a month. And so those rails are supported by the banking industry, and it's about a 7 trillion with a T suck from people. and it's great for Jamie Dimon and all the banks. That gets disrupted by stables. So, if I want to send money to my mythical mother-in-law in El Salvador, my mother-in-law's in Tulsa, but if she was in El Salvador and I sent her money, it would cost 30 cents on the dollar to send her through Western Union. But if I use Strike app or stablecoin, I could do it for free. So that's better. Okay. But somebody's gain is someone else's loss. Yes. So those big banks and payment companies are going to have a tough time. So I'm a huge fan of stablecoins, and I think all transactions will run on digital rails. To me, the difference is I still live in a fiat world. I can't pay my taxes in Bitcoin. I mean, I can buy Steak and Shake, I guess, but most things I can't buy. So I put as much as I can into Bitcoin and MetaPlanet and things like that, because ultimately MetaPlanet, I just own Bitcoin, as my savings. For my fiat, I don't want it in cash because that gets devalued. I'd rather it be in a stable form, and that is a good thing. But ultimately, and Murray Stahl says this better than I do. He runs Horizon Kinetics in New York, and like I said, Murray's the only guy I know who makes me seem bearish. Like he makes me seem like Bitcoin is going to zero, which is crazy. But I think Bitcoin displacing gold and having the monetary value, and I say it's half of the monetary value, which today is 25, so that's 12 and a half, something like that. And some would say, no, it's higher than that. Maybe it's closer to 20. Fine, let's call it 20 trillion. So gold at 20 trillion, that's $1 million Bitcoin. Done. Awesome. Easy. I mean, 24 months, I'm going to take the over. I'll tell you exactly how many months. It is May, June, July, August, September, 52 months. We'll hit 1 million. I love stablecoins. I love everything they represent. I think they're a stepping stone to ultimate. Oh, so Murray's point is that, okay, yeah, fine. You're talking about gold as the base layer of money, but I'm talking about all this fiat. And I tweeted this out the other day. It's this great, it's a big pyramid like this with a little pyramid like this. And this is Bitcoin and this is fiat. And literally he's saying all that fiat is going to push into the bottom, and that bottom pyramid is going to look like this. And it's all going to be orange, and all the green's going to go away. So he's like, it's 100 trillion, which is, meaningfully higher than $1 million a coin. One thing about the Donald is he's an incredible opportunist, and he does surround himself on occasion with some really smart people. Not always. I mean, there's plenty of examples where he does the opposite, but on occasion he gets some really smart people around him. And so it's amazing. We are 1 year away. We're only 1 year away from Nashville, where someone said, geez, you got to go to this event because, we've done the math and there's a lot of voters and they're one issue voters. And if you say these things about Bitcoin, and I'm sure some of you guys were there, he got up on stage, and my favorite part was, he does the free Ross and everybody's happy. But my favorite part was when he said, and on day one, I will fire Gary Gensler. And the crowd went batshit crazy. And you could see in his eyes, he's like, oh my God, that was like a drug. That was awesome. Like, I'm going to say that again. And he said it again, and the crowd went even more batshit crazy. And so he didn't believe any of this stuff. But David Bailey and others have really done a good job educating. And, whether it's Barron or Eric or, whatever, but there's been some education. And again, I hopefully, Donald's walking around with a Bitcoin account that he's going to pay stuff. He tried doing it at the pub key one time and it didn't work, but whatever. So, but his level of education did rise, which then said it was okay for some of the other people. And we always had Senator Lummis and others, because Caitlin did a good job with her. But there was an amazing number of people, Patrick Henry from our district here in North Carolina. I mean, there's been a lot of people who they were willing to be courageous. And look, at the end of the day, all great investments, all great fortunes come from courage.
Bitcoin's famous pizza story is more than just a piece of crypto folklore. It's the proof of concept that kickstarted everything. In 2010, someone spent 10,000 BTC on 2 pizzas. Today, that Bitcoin would be worth hundreds of millions. But instead of regret, that moment deserves respect. It wasn't a loss, it was the very first step toward real-world adoption. Without that transaction, Bitcoin might have stayed just a clever idea with no practical use. What mattered wasn't the pizza itself, but that someone finally used Bitcoin for something tangible. Fast forward to today, and we're witnessing another significant shift, not in food orders, but in how value moves globally. Stablecoins are quietly transforming global payment. They aren't flashy or speculative, but they work. They allow people to send money instantly, bypass banks, avoid fees, and regain control in a world where fiat currencies lose value and traditional systems move slowly. While Bitcoin remains the trusted long-term store of value, stablecoins have become the rails making digital money usable for everyday transactions. Now, Bitcoin is even making its way into politics. What once was a niche asset discussed only in internet forums is now a campaign talking point, drawing applause not because it's trendy, but because it symbolizes something deeper: freedom, transparency, and an alternative to a broken financial system. This evolution, from a simple pizza purchase to a political flashpoint, is not just a tech story. It's cultural and financial, and far from over. While Mark Yusko focuses on Bitcoin's cyclical growth and long-term price trends rooted in history, Jack Mailer explores the broader geopolitical shifts and the strategic weakening of the dollar. Together, they reveal both the mechanics and meaning behind Bitcoin's rise. Let's watch more clips from Jack Mailer's commentary.
We're in the final phase of this bull run. Let me guide you. We've launched DailyDoseCrypto Alpha, a free private Telegram group just for the DailyDoseCrypto family. Inside, I'll guide you through profit-taking strategies, real trading tactics, long-term crypto investing mindset. Only 500 spaces available, then it's closed. If you're serious about this bull run, click the private link to join now.
I'm saying it again on this episode. We're starting to hear the quiet parts out loud. The US has to devalue its dollar. The question is, against what? Against what? If China allowed the US to devalue the dollar against the CNY, this wouldn't be an issue. But they won't. They won't. Everyone's saying weaker dollar, last few weeks, weaker dollar. Yeah, sure. Okay, the dollar was weaker against the Brazilian real. Who gives a shit? It's all about the trade war with China. And so it is my opinion, I'm speculating, the US is going to weaken its currency against gold and against Bitcoin. If Bitcoin and gold go up a lot, all their problems are solved. There's a reason Donald Trump did not tariff gold. There's a reason Donald Trump is setting up a strategic reserve in Bitcoin. These are two neutral reserve assets that they can weaken the dollar against. You want to solve the Triffins dilemma? Listen, I can solve the United States currency problem in 10 seconds. Don't be the world reserve currency. That's the nucleus of all of our problems here in the United States. It artificially strengthens the dollar and it drives up our assets. It causes the wealth gap. It removes any sense of the middle class. It disables us from being able to manufacture things. We cannot bring manufacturing back to this country unless the currency is weaker. Because think about it logically, guys. It's always going to be cheaper to hire a bunch of people in China to make something than someone in America unless the dollar gets weaker. The question is, weaker against what? We need neutral reserve assets. Weaker against what? I'm just trying to put that in your brain. Weaken the dollar against what? You need neutral reserve asset accessible to everyone that no one can inflate, that everyone can self-sovereignly hold, and you have to debase the dollar against it. So this is a fascinating math exercise that if gold was 5, 6, 7 times higher than it is now, China ran zero surplus. They'd have $0 to invest into America. And they're starting to say the quiet part out loud. Why is Jerome Powell saying, post Bretton Woods, post the divorce from the gold standard, things kind of suck? Why is he saying that? Why is he saying that? Why is Reuters all of a sudden getting the green light to write pieces that the dollar needs a historic fall? Historic, record-breaking fall. Record-breaking. Elon, get out of here. Enough of your little, I'm going to save the world with startup level hard work. It's too far gone, buddy. It's too far gone. So you guys want to see what it would look like to debase the dollar against a neutral reserve asset? Well, we always look at the Bitcoin price, the opposite, BTC USD. Well, this is USD BTC. This is debasing the dollar against an asset. I expect the dollar to be weaker in Bitcoin and gold terms because it's all about weak against what? How are they going to devalue their way out of this? Against what? What's the one thing Trump did not tariff? What's the one thing he set up a strategic reserve for? Next, Russia's largest bank launches structured bonds tied to Bitcoin. Guys, you cannot say, if you're a listener of the Jack Mallers show, you're getting some alpha. Russia is now legalizing access to Bitcoin. They're allowing their biggest banks to release Bitcoin products. Guys, the quiet part out loud. I fundamentally believe Bitcoin and gold, neutral reserve assets that are accessible to everybody, that they can weaken the currency against. Listen, is the dollar going to remain the world reserve currency? What do you mean by that? That's the important follow-up question. Am I still going to use the dollar, or my Starbucks still going to be priced in dollars? Sure, but that doesn't matter. Reserve is the part. Where's everyone going to store the wealth? How's global trade going to be measured and priced? What are these countries going to do with their trade surplus? What are you going to debase the dollar against? Russia? Structured Bitcoin bonds? Listen, can't say I didn't warn you. By the way, this article was November 25th, 2024. Oh, how short our memories are, right? Cracks me up. This is by Bescent. Scott Bescent sees a coming, quote, global economic reordering, end quote. He wants to be part of it. You guys. So let's recap. Jerome Powell is saying this post-Bretton Woods divorce era where we're not on the gold standard. Yeah, difficult. Don't know if it's working. Reuters, got to weaken the dollar. This idea that we're going to cut and save capital on fiscal spending and reduce our deficit, and we're not going to introduce this big, beautiful bill that grows the deficit. Yeah, Elon, nice to know you, man. Good luck with Tesla. You're going to do a great job. Get the out. This notion that we're on good terms with China, they wouldn't mind us weakening the dollar. They're not going to mind the tariffs. Oh, yeah, the rare earth thing. Yeah, no, we have no leverage. We have zero leverage. The idea that the American people are being sold that we have all the leverage and we're the negotiators at the table, yeah, no, bullshit. Bullshit. Sorry. I'm American. Sorry. I started this podcast to tell the truth. Sorry. Call it like I see it. And we're now on to capital controls. You guys want to know what capital controls are? Look, all the dollars that leave come right back and cause all the problems. Artificially strong dollar, artificially inflated financial assets, because we're the world reserve currency. I can solve the US's problems in 10 seconds. Make the dollar not the world reserve currency. Debase it against something. What's that something? I wonder why Trump didn't tariff gold. I wonder why Trump started a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
We've reached a point in the cycle where the quiet truths are finally being spoken aloud. Central bankers, former presidents, and financial journalists aren't tiptoeing around the topic anymore. The US dollar must fall. The question isn't if it will happen, but how and against what. It's not about the Brazilian real, the euro, or even the Chinese yuan. None of these solve the fundamental problem. China won't let the US devalue directly against its currency, and other fiat systems are just different versions of the same broken model. What's emerging instead is a shift toward neutral reserve assets, specifically gold and Bitcoin. These aren't speculative bets. They're lifeboats in a system creaking under its own weight. For decades, the dollar's role as the global reserve currency gave the US artificial strength, boosting exports, inflating financial assets, and widening the wealth gap. But this privilege came at a cost. Hollowed-out manufacturing, soaring debt, and an addiction to cheap leverage. Weakening the dollar is inevitable, but it can't be just fiat versus fiat. It has to be against something uncontrollable, trustless, apolitical, and globally accessible, qualities that gold and Bitcoin uniquely possess. Neither gold nor Bitcoin is controlled by any single government. They can't be printed, manipulated, or tariffed. Signs of this shift are everywhere. Trump floated the idea of a strategic Bitcoin reserve, Russia approved Bitcoin-linked bonds, and Jerome Powell publicly reflects on the post-gold standard era. Reuters publishes calls for a record-breaking dollar decline, and behind the scenes, traditional powers quietly accumulate the very assets they publicly dismiss. This isn't theory. It's a subtle but unmistakable rewriting of the global financial order. The only question now is whether you're watching or preparing. As we wrap up, do you think gold and Bitcoin will rise together, or will one outperform the other in the coming financial reset? Share your thoughts below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these two awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.